Greetings everybody, welcome to G4G here on YouTube. The game that you see on the screen here is the now defunct or dead Marvel Heroes. That's Psylocke, and that was my team up of Firestar. I miss Firestar. That was one of the things I loved about Marvel Heroes so much, is the fact that you could have Firestar as a team up, and no game yet has ever dealt with Firestar, and that's just why that's a big deal for me. Is that's childhood growing up right there, from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which is Spider-Man and Firestar and Iceman, which if you think about it is a very odd combination. That's two mutants and Spider-Man, which is considered bio. I mean, now he's MCU, but he was considered bio, which is gaining your powers after being born with it. So like Spider-Man would be one, the Hulk would be one, Captain America would be one, somebody who was augmented but not from birth, bearing the X gene, like Psylocke on the screen, Firestar, Iceman. Anyway, yeah, I kind of miss Marvel Heroes. I mean, if you've never played it, it was a Marvel game set with a Diablo-style aesthetic. It had a kind of a rough launch in 2013, but then rebranded itself in 2014, and things smoothed out. But Gazillion unfortunately wound up dying shortly after, going live on consoles called Marvel Heroes Omega. And one of the guys who was leading up Gazillions had some kind of bad shit going on in his life. Sexual harassment, and potentially Disney just didn't want to work with somebody who was getting the kind of press that he was. It's not David Brevik. He's the guy who did Diablo. It's another David guy whose name escapes me, but needless to say, not the best of news here. So, I wanted to do a E3 wrap-up of the first 2 days, and I'm going to go ahead and state right now that the Marvel Avengers game I'm going to talk about towards the end of the video, because I'm just going to do things kind of chronologically to a degree based on how I viewed them. So I think the Xbox stream was really good. It did talk me into getting the Xbox Game Pass, which originally I had no desire to get. I had gold. I was like, okay, gold's gonna suit me fine. I don't necessarily need to pay more money and just have this free flood. And by the way, you can see that is the old inventory on the screen there, where things were not stacking very nice. I can tell by my intro to this video that this was quite old, and that's the old talent tree. So this is what Marvel Heroes used to look like, I think, back in 2014. So if you were playing it in 2015, 2016 more specifically, when it died, I think it died maybe in 2017. That was its last gasp. This is going to look a little different. But anyway, so I originally had no desire to get the Game Pass until they said, we're going to give you the PC Pass for free, and we're going to include gold. And I was like, okay, now you're starting to get me. And they're like, and for the first beginning part of it, it's going to be $1. I went, I'll buy that for $1. And I did get the Game Pass. As an aside, for those of you guys that are running Windows, you can get the Game Pass through the Xbox Beta app. Maybe the Xbox app actually delivers it also. But if you go to the Game Pass websites and everything, they'll link you to the Xbox Beta app, and it's a direct download from them. You don't have to get it from the Windows Store. However, you must be running the newest version of Windows in order to run it properly. So you see here, I'm running 1903. This is the build that you need to be on in order to get the Xbox Game Pass to work. So for the PC version of it. So that's a lot of value. All of a sudden, it went from like, yeah, I have no desire to buy this, whatever. And I don't have a PS4 subscription either. I have Xbox Gold. Girlfriend maintains the PS subscription, which is pretty good, but we don't have like the PS4 version of the Game Pass. I don't have the Xbox version. Ubisoft is now coming up with one called like Ubi Plus. Everybody has these subscriptions. EA's got them. I don't. I have several different stores like Steam and Origin and Battle.net and all that at the Bethesda one, but I don't maintain any active subscriptions until this Xbox One came in at a really good value, so I did pick that up. So it'll be interesting to see how that worked. That was cool. Very excited to see the introduction of Phantasy Star Online 2 to the Western markets. If you don't know about this, PSO 1 was on the Dreamcast. I used to play it on Dreamcast over dial-up. Like, I think I had it configured for my ISP at the time, which was dial-up, not like Net Zero or something like that. I think it was my direct dial-up configuration, and I like ran it over the thing's 56k baud modem, which, if you know anything about the wiring of the time, the max you ever got was 53k, no matter how good your modem was, because that's what wires were rated at the time, telephone lines. So I quite enjoyed that way back when, and it was a very interesting game. Got hard at times, it got hard to solo past a certain point. But PSO2 has been out for some time in Japanese markets. My girlfriend played it with a good friend of hers for a while, and a lot of times when Americans would play, it would kind of be at night in Japan, so the population was low, and it was very Mission Impossible. You kind of had to sneak in there and like really hide that you were American, because they were very insular about it. They didn't like too many people coming over and playing that game. And there are several games throughout Asian region gaming history that people have ridiculously wanted to play in the States. PSO2 has been one of them, especially for nostalgia from the Dreamcast fans. And here was my girlfriend playing it with no experience of the Dreamcast one. She enjoyed it. A little laggy at times. But Lost Ark in the Korean market, and Black Desert, and Blade and Soul. So there's been a few that people have wanted to do. And Arcade, that was another one. So there's been some, and PSO2 is one of them. So it's very interesting to see it coming to the States, and it's going to be coming from Sega, obviously, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays. Are you really going to need like a keyboard? Oh, an Eternity Splinter, that's cool. That's how you used to get heroes in that game, is you get Eternity Splinters and you would cash them in. Would you need a keyboard so that you can chat with people? Are you going to have like a radial wheel emote system or something so you can be like, hi, fight that thing, target, It's going to be interesting to see how that one plans out. But exciting, and I don't know if it'll be a purchase. I don't know if it'll be free to play. But that is one I will probably at least look into in some way, shape, or form, especially if it has maybe cross-platform with the PC, or the ability to play it on my PC via the Xbox app, which you can do with a lot of games right now. Crossfire X was something they really, really hyped up because apparently it is super big in the Asian regions. It's sort of like a Battlefield kind of game, and I don't think a lot of people here in the States knew it. But it's apparently huge when they said millions and millions of players. And I'm like, really? But then they had to, they had to give it a qualifier and say, in the Asian regions. And I was like, oh, okay. PSO2, back to that for a moment. So when I've witnessed a lot of people who play American games or English-based games from other countries, and they immediately start speaking their native language, and I'm like, you realize like you're playing an English game and you're on an English server. How can you just bust out your local regional language and expect to be understood? Like, you know where you are, right? Like, it's like pulling up to a bank in the heart of Tennessee somewhere and speaking Polish. Like, you just gotta assume somebody's not gonna understand you. And I always wondered, when I used to say to people, it's like, I don't get what is such the intensity to come over and play games out of market in the States. And really the only time that I could ever draw that comparison was PSO2. That is the only game that I truly ever knew of English-speaking Americans playing off-market. Now, that was true for several years, but then a lot of other very popular Asian games have cropped up, like Lost Ark, which is a Diablo-ish game that is everybody has been waiting to come stateside. If you follow that type of game, that's something you know about is Lost Ark, and you've probably been waiting for it. But I don't know a lot of people who have played it or sneaking on to play it or finding ways of like using VPNs to play it. But PSO2 was definitely one of those ones where I knew people were stepping out of our market to go play it instead of coming in, and that was always interesting. It was one of the few examples that I had of out instead of in. Cyberpunk, man, when that trailer cut to Keanu at the end, I was just sitting on my couch watching that, and I'm starting to see the hair. I'm like, wow, that's a very oh my god. And I was just sitting there. I was like, yes, this is amazing. And I think for E3 2019, that is going to be the absolute pinnacle of the entire E3 experience is fucking Keanu Reeves being in Cyberpunk. And a friend of mine, female friend of mine on Facebook who tends to make posts like this all the time, was like, can we do things to him? I was like, well, they said kind of like, the BioWare games like Dragon Age, there is going to be romance options of your compatriots, so maybe you can. Maybe you can romance the Keanu Reeves character. Who knows? But not exactly what I would be playing Cyberpunk for, other than the fact that he's in it. Like, I was going to play it anyway, and I think everybody's super excited to play it. CD Projekt Red is a studio that does not have a lot of negative sentiment with the gaming population right now. Now, their crunch is bad. Like, a lot of people have said that the crunch at CD Projekt Red is super bad, and crunch is getting very, very negative press lately. And it is also going into the unionization of game developers and software developers, which is something that I hope happens for them. It exists in France. But CD Projekt Red has come out and said, we're going to crack down on this. We're not going to do this as much as we did. And some people said that the reason why the head of CD Projekt Red came out and said that publicly is so that he can be held accountable for it if in the future they start doing that quote-unquote, air quote, mandatory crunch that isn't mandatory, that people can point to him out in public saying that and be like, the lead of the entire company said we're not going to do this anymore, so we're not going to do this. A lot of people said that's probably why he was extremely public about it, but I mean, I'm just glad he said it out loud in public because it continues to garner good sentiment towards CD Projekt Red. Legend of Right looked interesting. Jedi Fallen Order looked very interesting. I've heard some comments that it looked a little too linear and claustrophobic, but they did say several times when they were showing that footage that that was just a small part of the game, and it goes to different biomes and locations, and I don't think they're going to kind of make that Final Fantasy 13 mistake of having it very on rails in the beginning of like room, connector, room, do stuff. Regardless, though, I'd still be interested in it, and I think one of the best things about the trailer is the stormtrooper shoots a laser bolt. I forget his name, Callistus or something. The Jedi slows time, force grips the stormtrooper to him with the laser bolt slowly coming in slow motion, and then force pushes the stormtrooper into his own laser bolt. And I saw that little quick moment as a GIF somewhere, and the caption was, that's got to be a way to go. And yeah, that's a ridiculously fun set of mechanics, and I think it's just a dream for people to have really good control over Jedi powers, and that's an awesome combination of Jedi powers right there. Slow, grip, push into the guy's own laser bolt. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Bleeding Edge is another one that is going to be interesting. I am not a Minecraft player at all. I have never even played 5 seconds of it. I don't follow it. I don't know anything about Minecraft other than, like, I think last year they said, hey, high-res textures. My experience in Minecraft is the Minecraft part of Borderlands 2, where you get that sniper rifle and you fight the creepers. However, there's a Minecraft Dungeons coming out, and that kind of looks a little interesting. As long as I don't have to sit there and build anything, it looked roguelike, and there were some teammates. I saw res happening there. I saw some inventory management. Maybe. I'd have to have so little amount of games for me to really want to jump into it, but it looked a little interesting, and my game backlog right now is bad. I honestly would need to quit my job and become like a mega bearded hobo in order to catch up, because between WoW, the consistency of me doing WoW and Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, and then potentially either Destiny, well, more on that, but Destiny or Monster Hunter, to have a game in common with the girlfriend, because WoW is kind of work. It's not fun, even though we both play it together. It's raiding is more work than fun sometimes. So, yeah, there's a lot of consistent games on a semi-daily basis that to branch out and to do the fun games, especially with all the mobile games that I'm part of. Yeah, I would have to be ridiculously homeless in order to catch up, and just be me under an underpass with a really, 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 really long extension cord to the outside plug of the nearby McDonald's or something. Um, Darksiders Genesis, that's just something I have written down. That is the Diablo-esque game set in the Darksiders universe. It looked really good, and there's a lot of Diablo-esque clones coming out, including Lost Ark that we've been talking about maybe someday, but that's one I want to give a go to. Deathloop is the Groundhog Day looking game where two opposing things, like maybe a Mr. and Mrs. Smith of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, just keep waking up to the same day. And there's my Emma Frost with my big dino summon over there that just tromped around. So you just keep repeating your day, and I think you find ways of living longer. It's like, oh, I remember in this situation he like snuck up behind me and tried to shoot me, so I'm just gonna dodge a little bit to the right. That'll be interesting. Ghostwire, that's the one where people are just disappearing in Japan, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And just like the trailer showed kind of what you would think of the basis of really good Japanese horror, and people like waiting for a subway, and just half of them disappear, and then the remaining people look around and they disappear too. And then you see like a leash, and for a second you're like, oh my god, is this going to be tied to a mutant dog or something like Parasite Eve from the old Square days, and it's just a dog walking up to the owner's clothing because the owner's gone. Little poignant moment. That could be interesting, but they didn't really give a lot of details on that one. Elden Ring, which is the George R. Martin game that he's doing with FromSoft, could be very interesting. That one, so Bandai Namco had some bad leaks ahead of E3, so this one wasn't nearly as big of a surprise as they thought, but it still could be really good. Midnight Ghost Hunt. That was one of the ones that I saw today. That's the one that looks like Prop Hunt. That one will be in an alpha, and you can probably go out and start getting into the alpha now or something. What's interesting about that is you come in kind of like Ghostbusters. They look like Pyro from TF2 wielding Ghostbusters related things, and they go into a house, and the ghosts, which are played by other humans, are blending in as furniture, and you're trying to go unnoticed in there, so it's sort of like the Friday the 13th game. Um, but even it's not one Jason against a bunch of counselors, but it's like a bunch of Jasons and a bunch of counselors. And you try and hide as like a chair or a painting or a suit of armor, and if you survive, you go into a rage mode and you resurrect all the other ghosts that died, and you guys go red, and then for the second half of the match, you have to chase down the Ghostbusters, quote unquote, and get to them, and their object is to survive until they're extracted. So you're the hunted in the beginning if you're a ghost, and then it spins around and you're the hunters if that's how the match goes. So that was interesting. Starmancer is going to have a beta. Starmancer, some people said it looks like a dwarf fortress in space, or RimWorld. I've got a good friend Jimmy who plays RimWorld. I haven't. I'm not that big on the builder games. This one looked kind of cool. I know some people who've played like Stardew and Stardew Valley and some of those other games. That would probably be up their alley. That indie builder, retro aesthetic and everything. Remnant, that one looked really good. I'm kind of drawing a blank on what it looked like. Blood Roots was a bit interesting. Let's see what else. And this is in today's stuff. Chris Tales coming in 2020. That was this very modern, almost watercolory look to a new JRPG, and that one looked pretty good. Valfaris is another one I'm going to be tracking. Ubisoft had a roller derby game that looked kind of interesting, sort of like a Rocket League. It's called Roller Champions. I think that one you can play now. And then more recently tonight in Squares, they announced 2 Saga games. A typically retro one like the 16-bit Saga games or the PS1 era, I should say. And then there's a brand new one that they're doing that's a very modern look to it. A new Brave Exvius game. So I've been a Brave Exvius player for a long, long time and have a pretty robust roster in there. However, not super active in it. I kind of log in, I get my daily, and I log out. But on the weekends, I get to spend a little more time with that one. So there's going to be another one in the BE universe that looks like a tactics game. They re-announced again another one that I've been tracking for a bit called Onanaki. And then there was, the expansion to FF14 and a couple of other things there. So the Square one today is one of the ones that I've been waiting for a long time. Obviously, because of what we talk about a lot on this channel, it was that new Marvel Avengers game. I think that's what a lot of us have been waiting for. Like, okay, let's hear a little bit more about this. They announced this partnership a year or two ago, and we've only seen very limited footage, and they said they're going to talk about it. So if you didn't know, Square took over PlayStation's time slot. PlayStation did not come to E3 2019, and Square got their slot. So this is prime time. And Square had to show up big to this. Some of their games recently have not been doing well. The one set in the Front Mission universe, Never Die. I forget the name of that one. I had interest in it because it was set in the Front Mission universe, but it wasn't mech heavy really, and then it just got reviewed awful. And then there was the one about the person who was deaf, and yeah, that game got reviewed really, really poorly too. So they've had several games recently where they've just been shit on. So well, there's Keanu, like, there it is. That's just huge, and it's got a release date. We've still got a ways to wait for that, unfortunately. But yeah, that's really big. So when the Square slot started tonight, and they started with the Final Fantasy VII stuff, and which is just glorious. The crowd's going wild for it. Their whole presentation was very much like Final Fantasy Record Keeper, where the different zones of Final Fantasy games in the past within FFRK, are sort of represented as pictures in big frames, ornate frames. The way they were framing this whole E3 presentation, I was like, that's Final Fantasy Record Keeper that they're doing. So when they opened with FF7 and they showed a lot of the gameplay, and we finally know what the combat's going to be like, where it's going to be 13-ish with active button presses, but then when you build up enough ATB, you hit a button and time slows down. You go into menu mode like a classic Final Fantasy VII, so you can probably sit and get tactical. You're like controlling one person at a time, but you essentially give up control of the other one to control the other one shortly. Like there was a lot of Barrett and Cloud play where Barrett was moving to a side to shoot like a turret on the guard Scorpion, and then Cloud was up front swinging his sword and everything. That was really cool. And then they kind of went into the mid-level stuff like the Dragon Quest Minecrafty game and some other Dragon Quest stuff, and I was like, I know what they're doing. They're bookending. This is exactly what they're doing here. They led with something strong to suck you in, and then they're going to give you a bunch of meh stuff in the middle here, and then they're going to bookend it by the outro being the Avengers game. And I don't think it's just in my circles that's waiting for that. We're in a very Marvel-centric summer with, Endgame coming out in the beginning of the summer, and then Dark Phoenix being out now. Hate it or not, it's still like it's Marvel heavy. So, yep, that's what they did. They ran like Life is Strange and a whole bunch of other stuff and some of their mobile offerings, and then they were like, okay, so from Crystal Dynamics, I'm like, all right, here we go. And it was odd. Like, it was good, but I'm not saying they hit a grand slam. They hit a home run. They drove in a run or two, but I'm not saying it's a base clearing grand slam on this one, because we don't exactly know how much of what we saw is gameplay. There was some of it that could have been gameplay, with Iron Man doing some of the do a barrel roll on the bridge and whatnot, but so they introduced a bunch of the characters. There's Thor, there's Hulk, there's Iron Man, there's Black Widow, and then there's Cap. And Black Widow, man, whoa, that needs a Sonic the Movie treatment over there. That isn't Black Widow, that is fucking Mumps Widow. That's Man Widow, that's Duke Nuke'm Widow. I don't care what you call it. That is a mannish looking Black Widow. That's like John Wayne, the Duke, Jutjaw, just so square. And I missed the release date, so I went on the web and I was like Googling it, and was on a lot of Twitters, and a lot of the tweets were like, what is with that? So there were two themes for the tweets. Where is Hawkeye? And what is with Black Widow? And yeah, the only thought that came to mind was like, that's a man, yeah. Oh, the voice actors are good. So I thought Thor was Kurgan, aka the drinking detective from the human game with David the robot. Hell, the name is escaping me at the moment, but it's the from the guy who did like Heavy Rain and everything. He had that game out about a year ago of the synth that he's essentially running around with, like more human than that's. Yeah, I know that's White Zombie and Rob Zombie, but yeah, being human, whatever the game is. So Kurgan was in the original Pet Sematary. Of course, he was in Highlander. I heard the voice actor. I was like, I wonder if that's Kurgan, which made sense because he did a game recently, but it wasn't. But it has Troy Baker in there as one of them. That's a very well-known name. That's Gul'dan from World of Warcraft. That's Rias from Borderlands, Tales from the Borderlands. and he's been in the news lately of supposedly Gearbox said he didn't want to come back. He's like, no, I wasn't asked back. So he's got some voice credits, and I heard Laura Bailey immediately. There were certain voice actor names, American voice actor names, that I recognize immediately, like Johnny Young Bosch, obviously, is one of them. Steve Blum is one of them. Laura Bailey's one of them. Um, Lust from Full Metal Alchemist and everything like that. You generally can pick her out. The one who plays Tiny Tina, you can generally pick out. Um, so I was like, yeah, and I was right. There was Laura Bailey there, but it wasn't Kurgan. There were some other fairly well-known names over there. And what they've said about it is that it's going to be online, but it's single player and co-op. You're going to have like this rotating cast of heroes. And they did say all the new areas of the game, so kind of like, say, the missions from Borderlands 2, like Hammerlock's DLC, or Tiny Tina's DLC, or Mr. Carnage DLC, and all of that stuff is going to be free, but the heroes are going to be free too. So, and then they went and further said there's no loot boxes, there's no pay to win, which is really, really good. So it's probably going to be games as a service, probably not free to play, but it'll have a price tag like a lot of what Bethesda is doing lately, like Fallout 76, and then there's going to be things to buy. Maybe uniforms will be purchasable in some way, shape, or form. Maybe this Marvel Hero style where you get some kind of currency that could be used to get a uniform. The heroes are releasing for free, which is what they said in Overwatch. When Overwatch was coming out, they said it so, hey, if you're in a match that needs a healer, we need everybody to be capable of being that healer if possible. And have all of them available. If Mercy's what they need, then Mercy's what you're going to play. If Lucio's what you need, they didn't want it to be like Heroes of the Storm, where maybe you pull a hero daily or a Diablo daily, but then you don't have any of those characters, so you're fucked. It seems like we're getting them all, which is pretty cool. No loot boxes, no pay to win. It's going to be on the PS4, the Xbox One, PC, Google Stadia, and they seem to be buying into the PlayStation sphere because they said a lot of stuff is going to be happening on the PS4. You're going to have some launch surprises, there's early beta, there's going to be unique benefits, but we have to wait until May of 2020, which is just about as a year from now as you can get. I mean, it's 11 months and change at this point. It's May 15th, so it's just about 11 months from now, which is a shame, but hopefully we get some betas that we can get into over here. You can go to their website and sign up and like drop your email in there and they'll maybe mail you some details. Kind of sucks that they're digging so hard on the PlayStation architecture. I've got one, so I'm not going to lose out, but it sort of forces me, if I want to get it more for that than any other system. And depending upon how the game plays, I might want to mouse and keyboard it, and then I'm going to lose out on the PS4 stuff. Maybe. We'll see. I have no problems with getting PS4 exclusives, and there are some that are not exclusive to the PS4 that I chose to get on the PS4. And some I didn't, like Sekiro. I chose to get on the Xbox of all the systems. But Bloodborne, I was perfectly happy playing it on the PS4. So it doesn't bother me either way. And, one of the big questions for me coming up in the future is, will I have a Google Stadia? Will where I am be able to stream it well enough? Will it even be worth it? What'll be the price? Ironically enough, many, many years ago, I grabbed an OnLive very, very cheap on eBay because I heard that the gamepad was so good for the OnLive systems. And I had left it in the box for a while and was like trying to sync the controller with things. And then one day I was like, well, let me see what the OnLive system is like. And I literally pulled it out the day before they killed it. I don't think I even got but like maybe 10 minutes of it booting up and showing stuff, and then the next day it was dead. I was like, are you kidding? I've had this, it was my own fault. I had it like sitting around for maybe 6 months or something before I tried to plug it in and play it. But so I have this random on-life system just sitting around doing nothing. Anyway, so that's my experiences in E3 so far. The PC gaming show was definitely a big one. Was interested in seeing that and caught a good chunk of that when I missed a lot of Ubisoft. Bethesda's got some good stuff with Doom, and then I don't care what they say about Fallout 76. There is going to be a free trial for a little while, which kind of made me cock my head and go, maybe, because I was interested in Fallout 76 before it came out, but then that beta dropped, where they said break everything. Like, they made fun of it and said beta doesn't stand for beta, it stands for like break the shit out of everything. I forget what their acronym was. And people were like, there's issues. So they said there's going to be NPCs coming to it, which is going to be interesting. They had nothing on Starfield. Outer Worlds looks great. Definitely going to be interested in Outer Worlds. I touched upon Borderlands 3, which is a no-brainer for me. I mean, that's going to be a pre-order. It's probably going to be the pre-order with the season pass. Destiny 2, not really so much at E3, but before it, Destiny 2 is like, hey, we're going to Steam. We're going to go free to play. You're going to have this major catch-up function in the free-to-play version that will get you right to 750 light, which puts you on par with people who are playing right now. My character back at Curse of Osiris is like 250. If he ran around with somebody now, he would literally be wearing a thong and a wife beater. That's the equivalent of what he's got right now. I'd just be running around in flip-flops and a wife beater and just like thong underwear. He's so underpowered. So I will obviously be moving my BattleNet stuff over to Steam. Hopefully it run a little bit better. It had its moments on my machine, but I'm in the process of doing a PC build. So that should be really good in the future. I think it'll play pretty well. I think they said some content is coming for Rage 2, which is, it's doing okay. I can play it because of, like, it doesn't like my chip, even though my chip is just a hair under the minimum. It just sits in my Windows services and never comes to the forefront, and it doesn't launch, so I got a refund for it. And they actually gave it, like, no questions asked. Like, once they heard it doesn't run on my machine and they were refusing to troubleshoot it because of my chip, they're like, all right, here's your money back, which was good. I did not have a lot of fight with them so much. But, yeah, definitely some fun things out there this year. Nobody's really hitting it out of the park. It's been a tame E3, but it was slightly predicted. Keanu's probably the biggest announcement of the entire E3 in 2019. I don't think anything's going to beat it. We still have Nintendo coming up. That's one of the last big guns over there. Maybe we'll get some of that Marvel Ultimate Alliance footage for the Switch, which will be very, very interesting. It looks pretty from what I've seen of it. Very comic, and a lot of the classic representations of the Marvel characters that we're used to, like Proxima is classic Proxima, not movie Proxima, who, by the way, when I listened to the voice of Proxima in the movies, I thought it was Trisha Helfer, which is Kerrigan's voice actress, among others, and it wasn't. But that one really fooled me. Like, when I watched Endgame, Infinity War a year ago, I came out, I said, I gotta look that up. I bet you that's Kerrigan. And it wasn't. I'm like, who is this? It sounded so much like, I was really surprised that it wasn't Kerrigan, much the way that I thought Thor was really going to be Kurgan, and I was surprised that it wasn't, because Kurgan has a very Yancey, whatever his name is, Yancey something or other. He's got a very, very unique voice to him, and I heard the deepness of it. I was like, oh, that's Yancey Butler, Yancey Brown. I forget his name, but I always just call him Kurgan because I grew up with Highlander and I love that movie. So it isn't, but that's my E3 so far. If anything particularly interesting happens over the next few days, I might do a follow-up video, but I've got everything out of the way big time that I really wanted to see, except for Nintendo. Sony's done. Didn't care that much about Ubisoft. Bethesda's done. Xbox is done. Square is done, and we were all waiting for the Marvel game. So let me know what you think of E3 and the things that you're interested in, and if you're going to be signing up for any of the betas or alphas that they were talking about. So catch you guys later. Have a good one.